So the first thing we're going to talk about is the conceits that make a video game happen. Conceits are like, sort of suspensions of disbelief, and you have to obviously have some sort of suspension of disbelief to allow that this story world can exist in this form. It's different than a movie, which also has its kind of conceits and suspensions of disbelief that the audience is required to partake in, but we're more used to those. And so in this, there are three main points that I want to kind of make. One is the movement is this is a platformer. It's a 2D platformer, or side scroller is another name, and the movement is obviously limited. So as we watch the game kind of start, or we can zip forward, the little boy in this game makes progression from left to right. That's pretty much without exception the entire game. I mean, there's a little bit of doubling back, but for the most part, that's the direction he moves, and the story unfolds in that way. So that's the first thing. There's like this kind of artificiality to the movement here, and he's not able to go into the background, he's not able to go into the foreground, etc. He's on what are known as rails, moving left to right. The second thing is obviously the little boy, although he's not going to die in this video here, is able to just die and come back to life, restart as many times as he needs to get to the end. It didn't used to be the case. It used to be the case, and still is in some games, that you were limited to a certain number of kind of failures. But game makers discovered over time that, in fact, sometimes, especially in games that are more narrative, it's really important to allow players to try things over and over and over and over and over with minimal consequence. So there are kind of restart points spread throughout this game world, to allow for just kind of a more pleasant, or at least cohesive, experience that's less frustrating. And the third thing is that obviously this environment in which the story takes place, it's artificially created. There's, no matter what the challenge is, there's some way to overcome it, which obviously is not always the case in dystopia, though it, often is the case in different ways in movies and stuff. There are, plot elements that are thrown in to allow for, characters to overcome seemingly impossible odds. But that's kind of a third thing. Like the game would only unfold, the story can only unfold if players can progress through it. Obviously, it's not brain surgery, but you have to make a game world that is actually solvable. And so the environment is constructed in such a way that characters feel a certain degree of challenge and learn the rules as they go along, but that they're able to progress. So there's kind of, you just have to make concessions in that way, obviously, so that you can tell a cohesive narrative. So those are the three main kind of conceits that that this game and all games sort of have to have. One is, limited movement. In this case, it's on rails, moving from left to right. The second is the ability to restart over and over from certain kind of checkpoints, so that you can progress through the story. And the third thing, obviously, is that the environment is created in such a way that the player actually can successfully complete it or get to the end, which actually is not always the case in games, but that's for another day. Okay,